Walt Balenovich spent the first 5 years of his life in hospital, and he has spent the past 15 years or so traveling all over the world. From breaking his leg in Zambia to being stranded on a small boat, Walt has pretty much been through it all, traveling the world in his trusty blue wheelchair. His adventures are laid out in the pages of Travels in a Blue Chair, and we are so pleased to welcome Walt into our studios this morning. Here's what I love. Here's what you wrote. Your chair is like shoes.
Yeah, it is to me. I mean, I think a lot of people do look at the chair first, but to me it's just a means of getting around. If you want to get on a plane or go anywhere, you just bring the blue chair along with you and travel.
You know what you're saying? You're basically saying that you don't see yourself the way most people would see you, because people would look at you and say, here's a man in a chair.
I think so. I mean, but I think it's probably something that everybody has to overcome to some extent. Maybe me a little bit more, but once people get to know me and all that, I think, you know, or anybody in a wheelchair or with anybody who's differently abled, it becomes second nature, and you don't even worry about it after a while until you run into a bunch of stairs or something like that.
Well, you've run into a lot. I mean, you're traveling the world, and the book is called Travels in a Blue Chair, but it's so not about the chair. It's so much more than that, isn't it? That's
right. It's got everything in it. It's got adventure, tragedy, and it's got romance. A couple of backpackers that they say that I hooked them up, and they got married actually on Canada Day a couple of years ago. He was an English fellow, and she was a Dutch girl, and that's the last chapter in the book called The Happy Ending.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask you to give it away because it's a great story. How did you hook them up?
Well, basically, I met Luke. He was from England. He was on his way back home to England. I met him in Thailand. And he said, and I was heading to Australia, and we only had dinner for one evening, but we exchanged email addresses. We actually almost got killed going to dinner. If you're in Thailand or any of those countries, sometimes motorbikes can kind of run off the road. So we almost got clipped by that.
Oh boy.
Anyway, he said when you go to Australia, I was diving with a girl, a Dutch girl, and she's in Melbourne. So if you get down to Melbourne, hook up with her. She's really nice. And as it turned out, about 2 months later, I was in Melbourne, and I bought a ticket to the Formula One race in Melbourne.
And this picture that we're looking at now.
That's right. That's Esther. And so we hooked up. We went to the Formula One race. We spent the whole day. We actually went to an Australian rules football match afterwards. But the whole day long, she just kept talking about Luke, Luke, Luke. So the next day, I got to the internet cafe, and I emailed him, and I said, Luke, this girl really likes you, so why don't you keep in touch as the crow flies? She's in Holland, you're in England. And about 8 months later, I got an email from them. They had compromised and moved to Belgium and were living together, and then they got married on Canada Day. Luke's mom is actually from Winnipeg, and St. Esther's Day is Canada Day.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Everything sort of came full circle.
I should just be calling you Cupid. We've got about a minute or so left, and there's so much to get through. But you broke your leg in Zambia, right?
That's right, exactly, yeah. I loved Africa. That's the second time I was there, and I was having a great time this time until I fell out of my chair and my body broke in two. But there's a picture of me right there at Victoria Falls, and I think this picture was taken about 2 minutes before I broke my leg. And again, the people that help you out and the circumstances you're in, I was all by myself, but I had a South African woman who was the ambulance driver, and she took me to see an Egyptian doctor, and he had the only blurry x-ray machine within 1,000 kilometers, and he did the best he could, and it took 30 hours to get back to Canada, but made it through. And there's 55 stories in the book.
There are, and we're recommending it. Travels in a Blue Chair. Walt Balenovich, thank you so very, very much.
You can get it at Chapters or online at bluechairbook.com.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Marcia.
Oh, it's really good to have you here.